Hey there, Blade fans. Welcome back to another review by This Old Sword Blade Reviews. That's me, This Old Sword. And that's what you look for when you're looking for me. That is my avatar, I guess. Um, doesn't look anything like me, but it's kind of a sword guy. We're talking about something really nice by TwoSun today. Um, I've been doing pretty well by seeing photographs in places like White Mountain or others and saying, yeah, that really looks like something I'd like to check out. So that was the case here. And there are two models of this knife. By the way, it's the TS510 TwoSun. So if you follow TwoSun knives, they don't put names on the blades very rarely. Um, and this is the Snake Shadow, even though it's not on the blade. Just look at this thing. This is a design by David Chen, and I showed you some Wepe knives, WEPE, that David sent me for review. Also designed by him, but this one, and everybody that sees this blade basically says, "Wow." So let's take a look at the blade. Oh, it is a really nice, what would you call it? Clip point? Warny cliff? Got a belly, got a high flat grind, and kind of an interesting compound grind here, the way the swedge meets that clip. And look at the thickness on the blade. Isn't that interesting, the way that the clip narrows it down, then it thickens out, and then it narrows down to the point again. There's so much going on geometrically here. The handle insets are a beautiful match. The other version of this knife has kind of a anodized, rusty looking greenish yellow on the titanium. So the whole handle is titanium. It is a Framelock, and it is drop shut, beautifully drop shut. Now, I have to tell you, when I first got this out of the box, and it's always going to vary copy to copy, a lot of times on TwoSun, we get a very tight detent. This one's breaking in, okay? So if you get this knife or some other TwoSun and you get a stiff detent, you can be patient, put a little oil in there if you want to, break it in. If that doesn't work, there's a number of steps you can take, one of which is to disassemble the knife and bend that out a little bit. This is a frame lock that's sort of like a bolster lock. So you've got the handle material overlaying part of that frame lock. I don't know if you'd call this a true bolster lock or not. I'm going to call it one because you've got that raised piece of material there on the handle that when the knife is closed, the lock bar goes down, and you can see that kind of, it doesn't pop up, basically the bar goes down. Nice clip on this one with a pretty long ramp in both directions. Works pretty well in and out of the pocket in what I've tried. We have a big lanyard hole. So you guys with thick lanyards, no problem. About a medium size flipper tab with excellent jimping, I would say. And as I said, this is breaking in. You spend a little time with your knives because for 139, I think, at White Mountain for this guy, less my 10% off with the old sword discount code, you're going to knock about 13 bucks, 14 bucks off of that. So pretty nice to get. What? M390, guys. I know that's not a big deal any longer. We've gotten used to M390 the way we got used to D2, but there it is, M390, a premium blade steel. Nice grind, beautiful satin belt finish. Look at that. David Chen's name. Nicely done, very artfully done knife. And the material here, while it's not fat carbon, is sort of that G10, really. I think it's like a swirled Damascus G10. Damascus is a little different material from Hogue that they were using for a while. Love that squared off butt. Some people have likened it to kind of the Strider that they wanted to see, and that may be stretching it too far, but look at this guy. It's just a beautiful aesthetic balance of the blade and the handle. As I said, action's beautiful. These are currently sold out on White Mountain, and White Mountain's about the only place you can buy TwoSun knives. He brings them in, and you can get them instantaneously from him, free shipping from New Hampshire. That's Justin up there. Otherwise, you got to go to eBay. I don't believe there's any other. There might be one or two other, probably AliExpress if you want to deal with them, where you can buy TwoSun knives. And that's probably why they're not as popular as they should be. You don't pay a lot for the box. They've been using the same box for years and years, ever since they started making knives. Well, we're going to open it. There's that stiff detent again. Seems to be inconsistent. Usually it's a very sharp hole, and I think you can see, there it is. You can see part of the detent hole on the blade there. And usually it's a very sharply defined hole with a fair amount of pressure from the detent ball that goes in there, and that creates a strong detent. Some people like it, some people hate it, but you can adjust if you're willing to disassemble. Almost a 9-inch knife. We're going to call that like an 8.9-inch overall. And look at that, like a 3.95-inch blade with a cutting edge of 3 3/4. Nice choil. You can use the choil. They actually did kick the heel back just a little bit. You see that angle going forward, so you don't poke your finger. But still, when you're using a choil, be careful. And let's get right into blade stock, shall we? 4 millimeters. Yep, we're calling that 4. Is it 4 out here? 3.7. Yeah, it's 4 out there. I would call it 4 out there and 4 in here if that matters to you. So in inches, 4 millimeters, 0.15. Sorry if that's out of focus. And the handle at the widest point is 0.77. Heavily contoured, though. You're not going to have a problem. I mean, fits the hand nicely. We'll take a look at the ergos in a minute. Finally, let's put her on the scale. We'll back out just a little bit here. Let's close her before we put her on the scale. Not going to be super lightweight. No, not at all. It's 5.4 ounces, okay? 5.4 ounces. So that's not extremely heavy. It's a solid knife. I mean, you know you got a knife in your hand with this thing. The question is, do we have any milling on the inside? I kind of doubt it, simply because, oh, we do. I take that back. Look at that. Weight relieving on the inside of the handle, and obviously weight relieving because we have the handle inlays. Very nice. So it would be significantly heavier. Everything about this knife is, I wouldn't call it chunky at all. It's got a nice balance. I don't do this too often, and I should do it more, but there's a balance point right about where you'd expect it, where you'd want it to be. A very short run of jimping, not extremely grippy. Pretty good jimping there on the flipper tab. I mean, certainly there's enough there. And your flipper tab is slightly forward of the pivot, which is where you want it. And my right hand these days is my weaker of the two because of that thumb surgery. It's coming along now. And I have no problems opening this strong detent or not with that thumb. And that's the questionable one. You do feel it resist a fair amount, and then it breaks. You are not going to fail the opening on this knife. But Again, it's going to vary from copy to copy. You may get one and it's entirely different. Okay. Let's take a look at some of those other David Chen designs that I got recently. This is the Defense Master from Wepe. Not as strong a detent on this guy, but big, heavy, massive blade. And that's from D2. So the ones coming from Wepe, the initial ones, David says, are going to be D2. Keep the costs down. They're not very pricey at all. They're I think they're under, probably around the $50 mark or less. Okay, and that's a cool knife. This is the Camper's Friend, I think he calls this. And that's also a big knife, just about as long as the Defense Master. And he's been going for big knives lately, but the 818 that he designed for petrified fish is a little smaller version of this one. So these guys are all same length, pretty much, like a 9-inch knife. All set up a little differently, different blade designs, different detents, but two different companies. So although it's David's design, I think he's got some vested interest in the Wepe or Wepe, W-E-P-E, knife company. I'm calling it Wepe. Sounds kind of like an American Indian name, Native American name. Let's get some of the smudges off the blade here without slicing the thumb. So as I say, nice, I would call it a satin belt with maybe a little polish on this. And how does it stack up against something that's in my pocket here? The MSI from Microtech, standard issue. That is my daily carry these days. It's just a little bit longer. Very, very slightly longer. So, pretty much in the ballpark. This is a big knife. The 510 Shadow Snake, or Snake Shadow. I'll put the name properly in the title, but I think that's what they call it up at White Mountain. Is Snake Shadow. I think it's Snake Shadow. Kind of a cool name, but let's look at the ergos. Got about 3/4 of an inch left over my medium large mitt, and it is comfortable. There was a knife I reviewed recently, the Scaphoid by Tuya, designed by Jim Skelton, that I love the knife, except that this area right in here kind of bumps your finger back and just was not comfortable. And this one, exactly the opposite. It's not dished out too extremely. They put, I think, a proper amount of material there on the inlay, and nice access there to the lock release and the flipper, the thumb studs. So you can come right in and there's your angle. Now it's giving me trouble. Probably, you know what? I was probably pressing on the lock bar on the other side. That happens. That's why on these knives, sometimes it's easier just to use the flipper tab. You can lay your thumb all the way out there. You can choke up. The point is set up, I think, very nicely the way they dropped it with that clip so that you can do precision cutting with that tip. You have a very gentle mid-blade belly on the knife. And some people have remarked in some of the early videos I put out, the shorts, that these thumb studs look a little pokey. They could be, certainly. You could always take those down. They're nicely milled, beautifully done thumb studs. I'd hate to mess with them. But yeah, they're about even, actually, if you look from the top. So they don't stick out beyond the sides of the handle. You would think they do, looking at this side, but looking at that side, no, they don't. Nice fuller they put in, I call it a fuller, they put in the bolster area. No such fuller on the blade. I love this knife. I mean, for the 139 bucks, less discount at White Mountain, I think it's hard to go wrong. That is the TS510 designed by David Chen. Really, really doing some great work out on Instagram. You can see some of his other newer designs, equally as impressive as this one. So don't forget this. Give this video a like and subscribe. I will be back soon. Take care.